Hello, and welcome to Talking Tent, a brand new podcast about movies, TV, and all the content we can possibly consume.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Irma.
We are a married couple whose love for movies and TV can simply not be contained, so we've decided to share our thoughts, opinions, cheers, and occasional jeers with the world. For our second official episode, we figure we look back on the year that just passed, 2022, and briefly discuss a bunch of our favorite television shows. We will start with the most recent addition to this, and that's Mike White's second season of the White Lotus, which I think was kind of a perfect capstone to 2022 as everybody was talking about it. It was the talk of the town. There's, he really hammed up the murder mystery of it all in the second season. I loved in the first season how he kind of made a farce of it, and it really wasn't the point of the show, and it was a bit more cutting and a little funnier. But for this season, he really cranked up the tension of the murder and the relationships. And I think it was kind of fitting because he has stated that this season was more about sex, and that often does create more tension. So then all the characters were really tense. Everybody had theories. But then beyond the murder mystery of it all, I found myself at no point watching this show, which was not common recently, of watching the clock or seeing how long it was. It was even the most innocuous dialogue was just so captivating or hilarious or telling in certain ways. There was never a dull moment in the entire show.
Yeah, absolutely. I really felt like Mike White has such a knack for creating such real, lived-in characters. Like everyone felt so believable. And it's no secret that I am a huge murder mystery fan. I literally read Agatha Christie. Like that's like all. She's my favorite. She's my go-to. So anything that has a little intrigue about it, I'm always all about. And like Zach was saying, this season was about sex. The first season, which was last year, was all about class. And so I actually was recently listening to a podcast with Mike White, and he was saying that the third season is going to be about religion and enlightenment and going to take place hopefully in Asia, which I feel like a lot of people do always talk about, like, oh, I went to Thailand and I became so enlightened and I really found my center and all of that hocus. All that.
Hocus pocus?
Hocus pocus, yeah.
The live, laugh, love of it all.
Yeah. So I'm actually really excited for that. I mean, I feel like he's always... he said that the only reason why he knew this season was going to be about sex is because he found this perfect location in Italy, and he's like, oh, this is it. So I guess we'll see what the third season comes out to be, but I have full trust that he can, whatever he puts out, it'll be amazing. So I'm excited.
I'm starting to think, much like Adam Sandler, Mike White just wants to go on vacation while he works.
Instead of it taking place like in the void or whatever the volume that they call it,
yeah.
Thank God that he actually wants to go to these places. I mean, so do I. So I'd rather see it on TV than it be fake.
And from one incredibly unique voice to another, I think the oddball on my list that is probably not as common on a lot of lists you might find on the internet is Nathan Fielder's The Rehearsal. And it's just a show. He's a one-of-a-kind voice. There is nobody in Hollywood, at least that has the platform that he has, that is doing anything similar to this. For those that don't know, Nathan Fielder is a comedian. He kind of got famous with a Comedy Central show called Nathan For You, where he'd basically make these fake business plans for people and try and help their businesses, like struggling businesses. He'd come up with these crazy ideas to try and help them. And they were always absurd, and he'd find all these crazy characters. And then this show, The Rehearsal, was kind of his thought that he has issues with...
Well, he's an awkward guy. Yeah. I think that's his thing. He's an awkward person, I
also think he hams it up a little.
Probably.
He's like, yeah. But he basically, in scenarios, he wanted to help people in scenarios like a big decision they had to make or a big conversation they wanted to have in life.
That they were scared to do.
Yeah, and be prepared for any possible outcome. So basically the first episode is a guy that wants to admit to his trivia team, his bar trivia team, that he didn't actually graduate from college. And then within that, you just learn all about these people I learn all about Nathan. It's hilarious. It's also touching. There's a lot of really nice moments. And then basically on episode 2, episode 3 at most, it starts to really flip into just a whole introspective of his life, of humanity as a whole. He gets into his religion. It's really almost indescribable. You just have to see it to believe it. It's basically the only show that while I was watching it or right after, every time I'd be texting like, "Oh my God, did you just see what happened on the rehearsal?" Like it's everything he does is just unbelievable.
Yeah. It's honestly like it almost feels fake, but it really is like a reality show. Like it's not scripted. Everything that happens, like you're like, oh my God, this is crazy. But if you suffer from secondhand embarrassment like I do, it is a tough watch at times. Like the characters he finds, or real people, I should really say, are just sometimes hard to watch. I'm just like, oh my God, did that person really just say that? Did that person really just do that? But yeah, no, it's such a good show.
It's definitely cringy, which I love.
You
I
do.
love when people are just totally embarrassed and just acting absurd.
No, I can't handle
Yeah,
that. No, it's too much.
Irma has trouble with it.
Yeah, I put a pillow in front of my face. I'm like, no. A show that I really loved this past year, of course, The Crown. How can you not love The Crown? I believe it's on its 5th season now, so it has a whole brand new cast, which kind of made it a little difficult. Like I think the 3rd season also suffered a little bit from it. People were just like a little jarred because they're like, we got so used to the old cast. Now you're bringing in a new cast. But I honestly really love that about it.
Yeah, it's an interesting experiment, honestly, and I want to see if anybody does anything similar. Like every 2 years, you're building up this audience and getting them used to these characters, and then you're changing the actors, which in theory shouldn't make that much of a difference, but it's definitely a jarring way to interpret a show.
Yeah. Yeah. And this, well, because it always takes place like in the time span of maybe like 10 years. And so people age up, obviously. So you have to kind of age up the actors. And I do really love that about it. So this past season takes place from 1991 to 1997. So if you know anything about that time period in the royals' life, Princess and Diana's divorce, I believe, was breaking down. And so it was Tampon Gate, which is something I actually learned about watching the show, which is so cringy to me. And then, of course, the breakdown of Princess and Diana's marriage and I guess the moments, honestly, before she dies. She doesn't die in this season, so I assume she'll probably die in the beginning of the next season, which is going to be really hard to watch. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of love it.
And actually, full disclosure, I don't watch The Crown. It's one of the. So Irma has a bunch of shows that she'll watch in the bedroom, often when I am out in the living room playing video games. Most of them end up being trash relationship or reality.
Emily
TV
in
shows.
Paris is not trash. Take that back.
Fair. But like, stuff like The Bachelor, that's just not for me. The Crown is the one kind of more prestigious show that I started. I didn't love. I'm not a huge fan of the Royals. But
we're gonna start talking about The Bachelor now. Is this gonna be a
No.
Bachelor podcast?
You can have maybe on Tuesdays we can have a side hustle.
No, definitely not. I'm out.
But then from a show that I don't watch to a show that Irma doesn't watch, she just kind of fell off the first season and I kept going, and now it's simply too late. Is Industry. And this has got to be the least watched by anybody that's listening of the shows, I imagine. But it's really just something. I don't know how else to describe it. It is just fast-paced dialogue of the depths that humanity will stoop for money and power. For those of you that don't know, it's basically just about the finance world in London. So think of like Wall Street in New York, but in London. And the characters, they're all young. It's like early recruits into this bank, and their lives. And you can imagine the finance bros and finance gals are just really intense. A lot of drugs, a lot of sex. And just the characters can be nauseating and sexy and despicable all in 5 minutes. And then you're rooting for them even though they're just doing some of the most horrible stuff. They're backstabbing everybody. It's really just, it's nonstop. Describing it almost sounds like it would be boring, but they make banking just seem so sexy. And I don't even know how else to describe it. I mean, they also got very attractive actors and actresses. That helps. Like, they really knew what they were doing. It's almost a soap opera, but on a totally higher level. And then, Succession is a huge hit, obviously. And it really reminds me of Succession, but it feels even worse. Like, you watch Succession and you just hate these people, but you also kind of love them, but they just feel so distant from your reality. Like, you're never going to be a billionaire. You're never going to walk in these circles. And while the people in industry are rich, I mean, they're young, but they're higher wealth. But they just it feels more relatable, yet they're acting just as despicable and doing horrible things. And it's just so captivating. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. I think the third season is happening this year. The only thing, and it had me talking to myself in the shower. Honestly, the last 5 minutes drove me insane. I hated it. The last 5 minutes of the last season, the second season, made no sense to just what they had built the rest of that season. It doesn't like ruin the show. It's just this one action that happens, and it just doesn't make any sense any way you parse it. It had me so perplexed. I've never went from, like, I still love the show. It's still one of my favorite shows, but I was so perplexed by the decision that the writers made at the end of this that, I mean, obviously I'm still looking forward to season 3. I'm just going to accept it, but it doesn't make sense, and it made me so mad. And I think the surprise hit of the year is Severance. So Ben Stiller came out with Escape from Dannemora, right? A few years ago. We watched it. It was very good.
Yeah.
It got a lot of acclaim, but I don't think it was a massive hit by any means. I mean, it was excellent. But then I think Severance came around, and just all of the promotion of it looked really interesting. Like, obviously he took a lot of time with the art direction. He made everything so pristine, of how it was so specific how he wanted it to look. And I think it really caught everybody off guard. I think it's probably one of the surprise hits of the year.
Yeah, it was great. It's on Apple TV Plus, whatever. With Adam Scott as the main character. I don't even know how you would describe the show. It's like a close dystopian future in a way. Like, it's not like it's like that far in the future, but essentially Adam Scott loses his wife. So he's very depressed. And so he takes a job at this company. I forget what the name of the company is called, but essentially you have your work life and then you have your home life, and they're completely split in your brain. So you're essentially two different people. So he has the innie, is what they call it. And the innie is trying to, like, not be a detective by any means, but just like wants to know about his Audi's life and not sure like why he would ever do this to himself. Like, what would possess a person to do this? So it's just a kind of a study about that. It's really interesting. Like, it is kind of a mystery box show. There's things that happen that you're like, that pay off later in the season. Yeah, I really liked it. It's hard to really explain.
Yeah, super unique idea. And I think the idea, it's a really great elevator pitch of what if you can split your brain between the hours that you are at work and the hours that you're home.
Yeah.
And you're like, at first, you kind of think like, wow, that would be amazing if I could just wake up, eat breakfast or whatever, say hi to my family, kiss my kids, and then literally turn off and then wake back up, back home, ready for dinner, ready to watch football, ready to watch TV, ready to spend time with those you love, and kind of just forget the stresses of work and the annoyance of work and the annoyance of commuting or whatever. But then pretty quickly, because most of the show is actually the innies, you start to realize the other side of that equation. And that's really, I think, the point of the show was at first the idea sounds great. And then you realize that the other side of that equation is essentially an enslaved being.
Yeah, like they're definitely being like emotionally abused in some way.
Yeah. They're literally in prison.
Yeah.
And they are you.
Like they want to go out into the world.
With the same emotions, but they are imprisoned in this beautifully designed office, or well, starkly designed. Beautiful starkly for TV, but not pleasant in any way to be in.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool.
And then it just really explores that dichotomy. And then just an all-time finale cliffhanger. We won't ruin it for you. If you haven't watched it,
watch it.
You should watch it.
Highly recommend. It's fun.
But yeah, a fantastic cliffhanger. And again, season 2 comes out this year, which we will be discussing in a future podcast.
So another show we really loved this past year was The Boys. What season was it? Second season?
I believe it was 3.
Oh, the third season. Oh my gosh, where's the time gone? Anyway, so it's just like a comic book show, or not even a comic book show. It's about it's about superheroes and the bad side of having like real superheroes in the world, and are they actually really good? Or are they just out for themselves? Anyway, so this past season was just so chaotic and fun, and honestly, like it's just like a good time. Like it can be a bit dark at times, but well, very dark. I mean, the first episode opens with someone like blowing up. I don't know. It's crazy, but it's just like so out there that it's just kind of like fun. And it also kind of reminds me, so The Boys is on Amazon Prime, and another show that they have, which I don't think was this past year, I want to say it was 2 years ago, was Invincible. And that's like another like comic book superhero show. Like, what if superheroes were bad or maybe not always good? So I think they really go hand in hand. Again, if you're into that stuff, highly recommend.
Yeah, I mean, as Marvel took over the entire world, it was kind of the antithesis of that, of what if these superheroes were actually real, and a character like Superman, who's Homelander in The Boys, just this all-powerful being, would he actually be a force of good if he could, for what we learned of human nature, even though technically he's an alien.
Superman, yeah.
But like greed becomes a factor, and the greed for power and, like industry,
for everyone to
and
love you.
Everything that we've talked about, just what happens when these beings have all this power and how bad it can go, because it goes really bad. And then there's the boys, the titular boys are kind of the people trying to fight against them. Yeah,
but I wouldn't say that they're any good either. They're kind of anti-heroes, which is like makes it really interesting. Like no one's really good.
Yeah, by season 3 that we're in now, it's kind of, so season 1, it kind of painted the boys as heroes in a way. But then now we're all the way into season 3, and they just get deeper and deeper into the motivations and the actions of everybody. And, it's a great human story because nobody's perfect and nobody's good, and they all make bad decisions. But yeah, it's a great answer if you really love Marvel and you want to see the other
and don't
side
want
of it.
anything wholesome. Watch The Boys.
Another surprise that really came out of nowhere, even more so. I know I said Severance was kind of the surprise hit, but that at least had a lot of big names behind it, and a precedent, and the concept that seemed amazing. The Bear on FX.
On Hulu.
FX on Hulu, yes. Kind of just came out of nowhere and knocked my socks off, honestly. It kind of checks all the boxes for me of just a small, simple story with a few great characters in an intimate space, real life, just grief and how you handle it and what you do with it, and how you measure success in yourself and in others, and just beautifully portrayed by the 3 leads in Jeremy Allen White, Eben Moss Backrack, and Ayo Edebiri. It's about a guy. So Jeremy Allen White plays a guy who was on his way to stardom as a chef, working for the best in the world. Based kind of caricatures of those super famous chefs you would see in the real world. and who loses his older brother, and he comes back to the restaurant, the beef,
Italian beef.
an Italian beef shop in Philadelphia, to run it and kind of figure out where to go next in his life. And with essentially it's a family business, and it was his older brother, and the older
best
brother
friend.
killed
Yeah.
himself.
Yes. Well, that's kind of spoiling, no?
No, don't we know that? And yeah, it's just like beautiful. And it was a revelation by all three actors. It had you laughing. It had you crying. Like, it was legitimately hilarious. Eben Moss Backrack, I think, like, if he doesn't get, I know Jeremy Allen White is getting a lot of the praise, and he won the Golden Globe. I don't understand if Eben also isn't at least nominated. I think
he
it was
was
like,
great.
it was a star-making role. Yeah. Like,
and he's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy. Yeah, he was on this and Andor, and on both, he really made such an impact.
Scene stealer.
He really is such a good, yeah. He's great. And I just also love the bear. Sorry to interject, but just like, it really just made you feel like you were there, and just the anxiety and the pressure. Like, it really did such a good job of honing in on that. And of course, yeah, all the characters, just love them all.
Yeah, and the story kind of unravels. You learn more about the characters. You learn more about what makes them all tick. There's some revelations on flashbacks to the one and only John Bernthal, who's in the show, who plays the older brother, who's on the show, I think, for only one episode. And it's just jaw dropping.
Yeah.
He's so good.
He's so good.
He comes
He's
into
so
anything and
impactful.
he just rocks it. And you know, there's some standout episodes of the classic oneer. So the one that everybody talks about is a episode that's all one shot, and it legitimately was all one shot. I think they did it 7 or 8 times, in and out of the back of the kitchen, the front of the kitchen, just immense chaos and tension of. It's just everything we love.
Yeah,
it's just really
good.
great. Sad, funny, tense, incredible.
Yeah.
And then I think the last serious show we're going to talk about here is my personal favorite. It was very early on in the year, and it immediately became just one of the best seasons of TV I can even remember, I think. I think HBO might be doing it again this early in the year, just setting the benchmark of like, this is the best show. Come at me, like, top this.
Yeah.
And so last year it was Euphoria, and the first season I really loved, and I thought it was a great artistic, interesting story, super melodramatic. But then this season something happened, and Sam Levinson just elevated to another plane. Not to over exaggerate it, but it became must-see TV. I think every episode I was just shocked at like the ideas that he had. It's really difficult for me to describe why I think it's so good, and I think that's why it's so good. Like, it's just a story about really troubled teenagers. It's really disturbing. It's really dark. But he just manages to make all of these episodes feel like an actual piece of art.
Yeah.
And you can't often say that. Like, television, we know, is a writer's medium, and you can have great dialogue and you can have great shots, but it's hard to often say like, oh wow, that episode could be in a museum.
Well, the one I always think about is when her play, when he's like filming the play.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of my favorite episodes. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, the episode when Zendaya is running through the streets for the entire time.
Yeah.
Is one of the most it was Safdie Brothers-esque, just tense. And then the play, which kind of he made a high school play, a encapsulation of the entire season of television that we just watched, showing it from all different perspectives and like explaining the characters, revealing things about each other. it's just, I don't even know
Yeah.
how he did it. When they ended it, I almost said, I hope they don't make a third season, because I don't know what he could do to top that. They are making a third season because it was so
I
successful.
mean, they have to, yeah.
But at this point, it's now, I just trust in anything he does. And there is actually a show that I just learned about when researching for a future episode when we talk about the most anticipated shows of the year that he is also involved in.
What show? Tell me.
Oh, it's with The Weeknd.
Oh, great.
Yeah, The Weeknd and Sam Levinson are making a show.
Wow.
It's literally two of my favorite things in the whole wide world.
Oh my gosh.
And
When did Sam Levinson become the guy?
I don't know. Well, last season when he made Euphoria, one of the best
yeah.
seasons of television of all time.
Oh my gosh.
So certainly if you haven't seen that, I don't know what you're doing. But yeah, there's a theme that we're going to pretty much give. HBO is going to be every single show they put out where it just gets the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
And Euphoria killed it. And what I was mentioning, The Last of Us seems like potentially another top tier
Well, this
show.
first episode we just watched, it was unbelievable. So
Just setting the bar immediately as the first show of the year. So we just listed off, I believe, 9 shows that are probably the top of our list. I don't like to say anything's the best, except in this case, Euphoria was easily the best show of the year for me. But other than that, it's really difficult for me often to give a best of the best or rankings. But we have a bunch of honorable mentions that we could just quickly list off. Recently, Fleischman is in Trouble. We watched.
oh my God, so good. Yeah.
Just a very interesting study on divorce and relationships. Sometimes difficult to watch with your partner.
I don't know what you're trying to say.
Definitely makes you think about the arguments that we have, and I think if you're on the rocks, maybe it's not the best, but we survived it, so I think you can too. Peacemaker, on the same plane as The Boys, kind of a
and that was on HBO.
yeah. So James Gunn, I think the best thing that James Gunn has done. Honestly, better than any of the Guardians movies. It's just really funny. John Cena is great.
Yeah, so good.
And or very close to talking about fully like we did on the rest of these. I know most people have it as their top of the year. Just a great just another way to tell. The Star Wars stories have become kind of repetitive, I think, and they almost Dark Knighted it. It was like, this is how you tell a Star Wars story for adults, and it really worked.
Yeah, it was like a spy thriller, which was just really cool to see.
Yeah,
and then
speaking of spy thrillers, we just caught up on Slow Horses on Apple
oh my
Plus.
gosh, loved it.
Highly recommend. It is just your classic spy, but told from a different lens. Like, they're not sleek. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Slow Horses.
Gary Oldman being gross, and just like his like band of misfits. Yeah. So good.
So Slow Horses is a slang term for the Slough House, which is apparently, I don't know if it's based on a real thing.
Well, it's a book, but I assume it's based on something real. Yeah.
Yeah, like you don't really think about it, but if you're in the CIA, and in this case MI5 in London, and you kind of get in trouble or you do something bad, or you're just not the best at your job, they can't just fire you because you just have too much knowledge. So they kind of just put you in professional jail. So they're still in MI5, but they're in a place called Slough House. So Slow Horses are the people there. So it's kind of just your misfit spies just solving mysteries. It's great.
Yeah, very good.
And then the last season of Atlanta, I thought it was really good. I think the season previously was a little iffy, kind of back and forth.
I liked it, to be honest. Yeah, it definitely went back and forth, but obviously I think it's only 4 seasons total. I mean, I think it's great. I mean, you love Childish Gambino as it is, or Donald Glover.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously is supremely talented. They came up with just a perspective and a point of view that I don't think most people had seen, and certainly not on widespread television.
And especially the last episode, it just really makes you think, and I don't know. Highly recommend.
I mean, again. The fact that I mean, if you haven't seen it, they show the end of the whole series from a perspective that you just would you wouldn't expect it, and it's just great. Then We Own the City by David Simon, who did The Wire. It's kind of the spiritual sequel. Again, John Bernthal just comes in and lays the hammer down. If not for him, I don't like the show. It'd still be very good, but it wouldn't be.
And it's based on true events, right? Like it's almost like a true story.
Yeah, I think it is. It's the gun task force. In Baltimore.
Yeah.
And just how dirty and corrupt they were.
Corrupt, yeah.
And it's just fantastic.
And it's only one season, so it's not like it's much to catch up on, and it's not going to be another season, I don't think. Anyway, yeah, really good.
It's a bit of a grind, but it's just like a really captivating story about really horrible people.
Yeah.
And then we've got the end of Better Call Saul, which is a pretty unbelievable 12, 13-year run of telling the same story. I don't think it'll ever happen again. The closest thing will be like the giant IPs like Marvel and Star Wars that continue on, but not telling these single stories about a few different characters. The fact that they pulled it off, and a lot of people are saying that Better Call Saul is better than Breaking Bad, is insane. A testament to their storytelling. I'm not positive I agree with that, but just there's the Saul Goodman character, the amount of depth they were able to pull from what essentially, if you watch the first few seasons of Breaking Bad, is a goofball, and then they're able to just make him such a deep and compelling character, and then by the end have you just the end of that. It was amazing. Say a lot of things are amazing, but it's true. We're trying to blast through them fast.
I know. A couple others that I also want to shout out that I really enjoyed. Starstruck on HBO. It's like a romantic comedy, but it's a TV show about an Australian woman who lives in London who falls in love with an actor. I don't know, just really fun, really heartwarming. I absolutely loved it. Another comedy, Hacks.
Starstruck, a really fun Cinderella almost. Like that this normal person ends up with this prince, but he's a modern day times, like the princes are kind of our movie stars, our royalty. So it's kind of a modern telling of that kind of fairy tale almost.
Yeah, it's really well done. The main actress, I'm blanking on her name, also wrote all of it and created the show. So she's very talented and funny, and I just can't wait to see what she does next. I think it's only 2 seasons. I'm not sure if it's getting a third, but I hope it does. You believe it is? Okay, well, I'm very excited for that. And then another show I want to shout out, Hacks. Absolutely love Hacks. So funny, so clever. I just love where they're taking the show. So another show I'm very looking forward to in this next year. And then, of course, Only Murders in the Building. I mean, you have to talk about that. I mean, I love murder mysteries, like I said earlier. And then After Party. I don't know if anyone's ever seen that. Right? It was on Apple TV Plus. And yeah, it's just like another murder mystery show. I mean, these are like everywhere now, and I love them. And
that is also coming back, and I'm not sure how they're going to do it.
Yeah, because that was really cool. It's just, it was comedians just solving a murder. Loved it. And the last show I want to shout out is Survivor, because it's the best. And if you don't love Survivor, what are you doing?
Yeah, and in the pandemic, we caught up on a bunch of Survivor along with a bunch of our friends. And
not all of them, though. Way too many, but
yeah, obviously not all of them. A few of them, but now it's the Wednesdays, CBS Wednesdays when it's on. It's an exciting day.
It is. It really is. I get very excited for when Survivor comes on.
Yeah, we always say, do you remember what day it is today? Survivor Day.
Yeah.
So now we have a few months that's not the case, but I think it's back in March.
I know, and I actually just rewatched Mike White's season of Survivor, and that was so good. So good. If you love Mike White, I would say watch that season. I think it was 37.
And then the final shout out that has to be named is Barry. I think, honestly, like Euphoria, it was good for a while. And then this season, he just stepped up in the kind of filmmaking art direction.
Bill Hader?
Yeah, I think Bill Hader took over a lot of directing of it, specifically the scenes when he was on the motorcycle. I know a lot of people are talking about that. But it got, again, I like when things get pretty dark, and it got very
Yeah,
dark.
another dark one.
Yeah, and how it ended, a great cliffhanger. I don't know what they're going to do going forward, but I think he opened it up to concentrate on other characters besides himself. And I think they built up those characters to be able to easily carry that load. So I'm excited to see where he goes with the rest of it. And then, so most of those were pretty serious. A few comedies in there, actually.
Had to get a couple comedies in. Yeah, our list is very dark. So.
Yeah, we wanted to do a bit of the best of turning your brain off and just enjoying some nonsense. And we're going to start that off with Holy Moly. Absolutely love Holy Moly. It's on ABC. It is Stephen Curry produced Wipeout meets miniature golf, extreme mini golf. It's just hilarious. So Rob Riggle and Joe Tessitore announce it like it's real, like a real sporting event. They're in the booth and everything.
Well, Joe Tessitore is a real announcer, and so just Rob Riggle is so funny, and just them bouncing off each other is just great.
It's just hilarious. It sounds like a crazy concept, and it totally works. 101 Places to Party Before You Die was just another travel food show, but it's Adam Pally and John Gabris. I knew John Gabris from Comedy Bang Bang, the podcast. He was always one of my favorite characters that would come on there. So I was excited for the show, and it totally delivers. They're hilarious. Apparently they're best friends in real life. So it's just it's two guys just hanging out together, having a great time. And it's really funny.
It is really fun. It's a fun watch.
Then, of course, we got Somebody Feed Phil Rosenthal of Ray Romano fame, or Everybody Loves Raymond fame.
Loves Raymond.
He's a creator. And he's just a delight. He's so excited by food. It's another food travel show. Less debaucherous and more just like pure joy for food and people.
Yeah.
And it's just like great to watch him just be happy and giggle all the time. Some people are kind of turned off by how excited he is. I love it.
I really love it too, though. It's maybe on its like 5th, 6th season. I feel like, I don't know.
Maybe the shtick is wearing thin.
Yeah, the stick is wearing thin, though I do love him. And I want to say, the seasons are getting shorter. So, I mean, I feel like he's kind of been most places now, but it is just a really fun show. If you haven't watched it, definitely watch it.
Yeah, then I got a personal favorite of AP Bio. So it's been running for, I think this was the 4th season. I actually got Peacock just to watch it. Now I still have Peacock, so that's how they get you. But it is Glenn Howerton from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He's an AP Bio teacher that he was a Harvard professor, and he fired, I think. I don't even remember the original concept, but now he's teaching AP Bio in a high school back where he lived, where he was from. And it's just great. It's just a classic sitcom, but the kids are hilarious. It's so off the wall. I highly recommend it to everybody. It makes me laugh out loud, which most shows don't.
And then another sitcom, actually, I want to recommend just because it's currently on and I really do enjoy watching it, is Ghosts. I want to say it's a remake of a British show.
Yep.
And so they brought it here and it's on ABC. Just a simple, fun concept. A woman hits her head and now she sees ghosts that are living in her home, and they're from all different time periods. And yeah, I just really love it.
And then finally, we have the Netflix hit of the year of Wednesday. And I was pretty excited for it when I heard the concept, and then it totally over-delivered. Jenna Ortega.
It got a bit hacky in there. I don't know, though I did really love it. But yeah, it got a bit, I don't know.
I mean, it's goofy.
Yeah.
It's silly.
Yeah. I think that's the point. You're right.
But Jenna Ortega, if nothing else, Jenna Ortega does such a fantastic job. I think it was really hard shoes to fill. I mean, people remember the Christina Ricci Wednesday very fondly, I think.
That's true.
She really did that perfect monotone. It was like, how is anybody going to be able to do it? And it is honestly a little different. And it's a little jarring at first. And then she takes it into her own direction, and like the dance.
Yeah.
I think the dance scene that that is all over TikTok is just like award worthy on its own in the most unique way.
Dances sell. I mean, even with Megan, not to bring it into a movie, but like dances, that's what gets the
Yep.
TikTok going.
Get the TikTok going. And I think that's all we got. I think we just blasted you with like 20 different TV shows. There's so much TV out there, as we discussed. It used to be possible to keep up with it. I'm sure we missed something.
Oh, I'm sure we missed a ton.
Feel free to follow us on Twitter at Talkin Tent, or email us at talkintent@gmail.com and tell us what we missed and why you think it deserves to be one of our favorites. And maybe we haven't even watched it.
I know. I mean, we'll definitely catch up. Let us know.
So next episode, we're going to be basically doing the same thing, but for movies, so our favorite movies of 2022.
Shorter list, I would say.
Slightly shorter list. So from our living room to yours, what do you want to watch?